Pro Stock kicked off its championship in Sydney all the way back in November. In the final that night, it was Lee Bektash up against Tyrone Tremaine in what was set to be an epic showdown heightened by dramas for Tyrone Tremaine as he was staging the car. It's all on the line. And it's over. After all the problems on the start line, you wouldn't believe it, Tyrone Tremaine takes home the win. You can see his wife, Relinia, absolutely pumped on the start line. Tyrone Tremaine heads the series points on 105, only 9 points ahead of Lee Bektash. Nino Cavallo up there as well, Bill Perdicaris in fourth, and they're followed by Aaron Tremaine and Emilio Spinozzi. This is the Sandoz Super 3 Extreme Drag Race at Willowbank Raceway. It promises to be an epic event. Let's jump straight into it. Time for the one and only qualifying session that Pro Stock have here today. You've got to remember this is a two-day event, but it is two individual championship rounds. It's a little bit different to the usual elimination format that we run. We've got Brian Purcell on the start line now, taking on Grace Porter, the American import who now calls Australia home, alongside her husband, Scott, who's been racing Pro Stock for a long, long time. It is a family affair, this one, set for a start. Oh, a little bit close to the centre line there for Grace Porter. That is not where you want to be in a Pro Stock car. And across the finish line for a 7:32, a nice run for Brian Purcell, up around 298.46 kilometres per hour. Grace Porter got out of the throttle. Let's try and figure out why. As we have a look at the replay, watch those wheelie bars, a lot of tyre shake at the top of first gear. That's enough to get out of that throttle, and that's enough to render that run done. Brian Purcell, on the other hand, killer on the tree, 0.54 on the tree for the reaction time, and across the line with a 7:32. First run down the track this weekend sets him up very, very nicely. Time now for the multi-time national champion, Aaron Tremaine. This guy is one of the most successful Pro Stock racers we have ever had in this country, and he is taking on Lee Bektash, the man, the myth, the legend on the far side of the racetrack, the Mopar man. He has a cult following, this guy, and it is for a reason. One of the most charismatic drivers that we have in this 400 Thunder series. Driving for Team Mopar Australia, looking to lay down a solid number here, and let's be honest, he has been hitting them out of the park over the last couple of years as far as the big numbers are concerned. Can he convert it here at Willowbank? Oh, it's an ugly, ugly run for Aaron Tremaine. That car got way loose on him. But Lee Bektash, there you go, off the trailer with a 7:02 at just over 315 kilometres per hour. That is a huge run under the conditions. It's a little bit different, this format that we see today. Only one qualifying run, which means they only get one look at the track before we jump into racing, and Lee Bektash is making it count. 7:02 takes him straight to the top of the tree. Aaron Tremaine, though, if you have a look at that car, it was ugly from the outset, made a big dart towards the wall right off the start line, and then right there, the back of the car starts washing out. You don't want that in a Pro Stock car. Very, very little downforce on the back of these cars, and when they move around like that, a lot of the time you see them turning turtle. Our final pair for this qualifying session, well, it sees two of the championship hitters matching up against each other. We've got Emilio Spinozzi in the Speedmaster car, new sponsor on board this weekend for Emilio and the team, and he is taking on Tyrone Tremaine. This is going to be a good one. Spinozzi has got lots of horsepower under that bonnet. RC Racing Engines doing the engine work on that car, and of course Tyrone Tremaine with the family horsepower under the hood. Aaron with a lot to do with this engine program. And I'll tell you what, they are not lacking for any horsepower whatsoever under the bonnet of this Pontiac GXP. This promises to be a good one, and this will tell us just how close they are to Lee Bektash. Oh, really close to the centre line. That's not where you want to be for Tremaine. And Spinozzi with a 7:08, 194 miles per hour, 313 kilometres per hour. That's a solid performance for him. You got to remember, these guys haven't raced for a little while, so they're just finding their way back out on this track. It is cool conditions here at Willowbank this weekend, especially here in this one and only qualifying session. and it was a little bit of tyre shake at the top of first gear again there. We saw that from a few cars in that right-hand lane, and it just drove Tyrone Tremaine over near the centre line. That's not where you want to be. As we touched on earlier with his brother, no downforce on the back of these cars, and when they move around like that, it can get ugly very, very quickly. But Spinozzi goes to number 2, so he will slot in behind our early leader, Lee Bektash, with that 7:03. Brian Purcell, a surprise qualifier in number 3. Aaron Tremaine, Tyrone Tremaine, and Grace Porter rounding out our field with an 11-second pass. Don't go anywhere. We've got all the action from the first round of racing coming up right after the break. Drag racing is one of those sports you can only really appreciate when you slow it down, and those super slow-mo shots are fantastic. This is the way they're shaking out for eliminations. Brian Purcell will be taking on Aaron Tremaine, Emilio Spinozzi taking on Tyrone Tremaine, and Lee Bektash will take on Grace Porter in the final matchup of this first round of racing. Now, this promises to be a huge, huge round of racing in terms of the championship especially, because we've got two of the hitters that will be matching up in a little while, Emilio Spinozzi and Tyrone Tremaine. That's going to be a big one. But before we get to that, we've got Brian Purcell on the racetrack. He's on the far side of the racetrack, and he's going to be taking on the 4-time national champ, Aaron Tremaine. A little bit of a troubled qualifying session for Aaron Tremaine, so he hasn't yet got a full pass under his belt. And Brian Purcell, well, he got a full pull. It was a 7.3-second run, but still, he got it to the finish line under power. So lane choice here goes to Brian Purcell. He's taken that very, very nice left-hand lane. Now, Tremaine's going to have to do a bit of driving here. He got way, way over near the wall, but that big Tremaine horsepower at the top end of the racetrack takes him on home, and he takes the win. 0.54 on the tree. He was second off the line, but first to the finish line, and that's what counts. 7.05 is the result. A good time, a representative time. Not quite in the realms of what we saw from Lee Bektash earlier on in the day, but still a very, very competitive time from Tremaine. Purcell, let's have a look at his run. He did nothing wrong here at all. He was first off the start line. 0.33 on the tree, 7.19 at the top end of the racetrack. Fantastic run for him, just not quite enough to get the win this time around. Now, this is the big matchup of the first round of racing. It is Emilio Spinozzi taking on Tyrone Tremaine. And just as a side note, how good does that flat black Speedmaster car look here under the lights at Willowbank? Sensational look. It's a little bit different to the usual standard of presentation that we see across the field here in Pro Stock, but still absolutely stands out from the crowd, and great to see some new companies getting on board as well in this class. Now, looking at Tyrone Tremaine, he knows he needs to be quick on the tree here. He is, generally speaking, very, very sharp, but Spinozzi comes from a sportsman racing background. He is extremely good on the tree, extremely good at hitting his shift points, and he's got one of the smartest minds in the sport in the form of Michael Marriott, turning the knobs on that car. And I said he needed to be quick. Well, he ended up being too quick. Tyrone Tremaine red lights away his chances by 5/1000ths of a second. And it's got to be said, he would have been in with a shot at winning that race. Both cars go 7.07, a 7.072 for Spinozzi, a 7.075 for Tremaine. That would have been such a close race at the top end of the racetrack. But the red light, that automatically rules out Tremaine out of this one. And the red light means that Spinozzi is going on through. Now, you've got to remember as well, to get through to the A final under this format, you need to be one of the 2 quickest winners. When we've got 3 pairs in the first round of racing, that means we've still got 1 more left to come. So at the moment, the benchmark is that 7.07 for Tremaine. If the winner of this race can go quicker than 7.07, that will relegate Tremaine back to the B final, and that's going to take a big dent into his championship hopes. So the final matchup of this first round of racing, it is Grace Porter, the American that now calls Australia home. A really, really talented young driver. Just as a side note, also raced junior dragsters over here in Australia for a little while, many, many years ago, but she's got a lot of experience in these cars in that fantastic-looking Porter's Racing Mustang, taking on the might of the Mopar man. That's Lee Bektash on screen with the factory backing from Mopar, Fiat, Chrysler, Australia. And this is a guy who has done everything there is to do in this sport. one of the toughest competitors in drag racing. Oh, and he's got problems right off the start line. And Grace Porter, wow, that is one of the weirdest races you will ever see. Lee Bektash was beaten off the start line. That car was dead in the water, but Grace Porter looks like she's crossed the center line here. 080 on the tree, 1046 is the result at the top end of the racetrack, but I think she crosses the center line. Let's have a look here. It's going to be very, very tight. You can see that yellow line right down the center of the lane. And yeah, she definitely got over that. That hands the win back across to Lee Bektash. That's a huge get-out-of-jail-free card there for the Mopar man and his championship aspirations, and that puts a big dent in Grace Porter's weekend, I tell you what. So this is the way they will shape up. The A final will see Aaron Tremaine taking on Emilio Spinozzi, and the B final will have Tyrone Tremaine taking on Lee Bektash. So this is the B final, and this is not a man that we would have expected to be in this B final. I would say that Lee Bektash would be a little bit disappointed with this after starting as the #1 qualifier here today. And, well, after that very, very troubled run in the first round of racing, he still did make it through to the B final here, but that was only courtesy of that centerline infringement from Grace Porter. So Lee Bektash, probably not the way he would have expected this weekend to go. And Tyrone Tremaine, well, he had a killer car in the first round of racing, a 7.075, but he went red on the Christmas tree, 005. That's only 0.005 of a second away from perfect. You can't really make too many adjustments from that. So I'd expect him to still be attacking the tree pretty hard here because he knows he's probably got a little bit of a horsepower deficit against Lee Bektash. If Lee Bektash lays down a solid number, the kind of number that we would have expected to see from him, and the kind of number that we saw from him in qualifying, you would think that Tremaine would have to put down a really, really good reaction time to have any hope whatsoever of taking away the big points here in the B final. Just love the sound of these cars. Oh, he's gone red again. Tyrone Tremaine, and that's a big one. .221 red on the Christmas tree. And Lee Bektash, well, that's 2 get-out-of-jail-free cards for him because he also left the cherry hanging on the tree. He was a little bit less, though. 012, a 706 at the top end of the racetrack. He will take home the win from the B final here. But Tyrone Tremaine, man, oh man, .221 on the Christmas tree, on the red side of the Christmas tree. That's almost half a light, so half a bulb. That's a huge red light, and that really, I guess, puts the exclamation point on his weekend, just how bad it has been. But Lee Bektash, sometimes you'd rather be lucky than good. He's gotten lucky twice this weekend, and he's still walked away with the trophy. So we move on to the A final now. This is a huge matchup in terms of the championship. We've got Emilio Spinozzi taking on Aaron Tremaine. Now, these two guys have gone head-to-head so many times over the last couple of seasons, and whoever walks away with the win here is going to take a big, big chunk of points home with them. So that's going to make a big difference in this championship. Spinozzi looking to put on a really, really good performance this weekend for that new sponsor, Speedmaster. Of course, as always, Hitachi Construction Machinery on board as well. They've been long-time supporters of that team, and it's great to see. And Tremaine, well, we know he is great on the Christmas tree. We know that he can hit his shift points in this car. We know he can get wins. That's how we got 4 championships. But times have changed a little bit in Pro Stock over the last couple of seasons. All of a sudden, 6-second passes in this class have become cheap, and the competition has really, really stepped up. So Tremaine is probably feeling the pinch a little bit, but he's not one to shy away from a challenge, let me tell you. Let's just sit back and listen to the roar of these 400 cubic inch naturally aspirated engines. Oh, this is a good one. This is a really good one. And it's a 7.06 for Tremaine. He takes the win, 313 kilometres per hour. Spinozzi, he had problems off the start line, was 139 on the tree, and that's usually a lot slower than what we've come to expect from Emilio Spinozzi. So I'd have to expect that he had some kind of distraction or problem inside that car. But Tremaine absolutely brained him at the tree. 0.34 reaction time. That's close enough to psychic. Great reaction time. He took it at the other end, a 7.06, enough to take home the points from night one of the Sandoz Super 3 Extreme Drag Race in Pro Stock. Well, there's a smile for Aaron Tremaine as he accepts the trophy, but he knows his work is only starting because he's got a whole nother day of racing left to go tomorrow.
Yeah, mate, it's a good start to the weekend. Hopefully we could, me or my brother can bag another one tomorrow night and be a clean sweep for the weekend. That'd be ideal. But cars didn't really run that great, honestly. Had a little bit of luck fall our way after qualifying. So, yeah, I guess end of the day, pulled a good light at when it counted, and the car ran okay, but still got that miss there. So if I can sort that out for tomorrow, I think we'll be in good contention to take home another one.
So it is day 2 of the Sandoz Super 3 Extreme race here at Willowbank Raceway, and under extremely threatening skies. You can see just how dark it is here at Willowbank, and it is actually only about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so things are certainly under threat from the weather here, but we will soldier on with this. Not great conditions for Pro Stock, it's got to be said. It is very, very humid around at the moment. These cars are naturally aspirated. They don't have the forced induction of some of the other classes, so they naturally have to rely on the atmosphere. And when there's so much water in the air, very, very difficult to make horsepower. Brian Purcell on track now on a solo pass here in the one and only qualifying session, getting a little bit close to the wall at the top end of the racetrack. He still drives on through it, and that's a solid pass. 7.22 goes along with the 7.19 we saw from him last night as well. So they're really, really starting to get a handle on that setup in that Pontiac GXP. Great to see, always good to see new faces coming through in Pro Stock, and in Brian's case, new old faces in a new car. The car was pretty much picture perfect till just past half track, and you saw it get a little bit out of the groove, a little bit close to the wall, but he drove on through it for a very nice run. Next matchup, it is a very good one if you're a Ford fan, let me tell you. That's John Barbagallo. Unfortunately, we didn't see him last night, but he is out here today looking to put down some runs in front of his home crowd, or at least his home state crowd. Of course, John hails from far north Queensland. But he's come on down here to Willowbank Raceway to put on a show. This car is one of the older generation body styles that we see in this class. It is a Ford Escort, but let me tell you, it is not lacking for horsepower. John is certainly one of the gun engine builders in this class, and although he's been away for a little while as far as driving goes, he's still right on the cutting edge of technology in this class. And on the far side of the racetrack, we have got Grace Porter. Of course, the engine in that car is done by the man in this car, John Barbagallo. So quasi-teammates here on track now. Oh, big wheel stand from Barbagallo right off the start line. Just as he plugged second gear, the front end settled back down and he got very close to that center line, just washed out a little bit and drops the chute early. Still manages a 7.2 second pass, and when you consider that he had the parachutes out so early in that run, that is a very, very nice run. I'd be expecting that to be in the realm of a high 6 second pass, low 7 second run for John Barbagallo if it was run out the back door. I'm not quite sure what happened to Grace Porter here. Let's have a look at the far side of the racetrack. Just got past the quarter track marker, and that was about it. The car went silent. Not sure if it jumped out of gear or if she had tyre shake issues. Very hard to tell from this vantage point, but still a 12-second pass, not exactly what you want heading into the first round of racing later on this afternoon. Emilio Spinozzi now on board, and this will show you just how busy they are inside these cars. They've got a 5-speed gearbox, changing the gear 4 times in the space of 7 seconds. If you can just picture that in your head for a minute, it'll tell you just how crazy it gets inside this cockpit. And Emilio, one of the best at hitting his shift points, hitting his markers, lining the car up right down the center of the lane. Of course, walked away with the runner-up last night from the A final. And this man, Aaron Tremaine, walked away with the win. It was a good win for him as well. And a real confidence builder as far as the championship goes, because he is back down the points a little bit. Back there in third at the moment coming into this event. He gained a little bit of ground last night, but he really wants to cement his position at the top of the tree yet again in Pro Stock. This team have certainly been the leaders as far as putting wins on the board, putting numbers on the board over the last 5 to 10 years. And, well, I can tell you that Aaron Tremaine would love nothing more than to have another championship trophy on his mantelpiece. So it's a repeat of the A final from last night. Spinozzi left of screen, Aaron Tremaine on the right. This is going to be a great matchup in qualifying. Oh, and that is what Pro Stock is all about. A 7.07 for Aaron Tremaine and a 7.06 with a 5 for Emilio Spinozzi. Provisionally takes him to number 1. But Tremaine, a 7.07. That's a solid pass. He's nothing if not consistent here this weekend. He's been anchored in that 7.0 second zone all weekend long. And you can see on board with Spinozzi here, just plugging it through the gears. The hand goes back across to the steering wheel, hits the parachutes. They're on an air-activated button there. And I'll tell you what, some of the busiest guys in drag racing driving these cars. Well, Spinozzi is putting on a show for his new sponsor this weekend, Speedmaster. Let's catch up with him down in the pits.
It was tight off the start. I mean, Aaron got me on the tree, and then we hunted him down, I think, in every increment to the finish. So it was a really close race, yeah.
So these storms just keep rolling in here, and they haven't hit the track yet, but it certainly has that feel that it is going to impact the racing here at some point this evening. We've still got one more pair of qualifying left to go, and it is a good one, let me tell you. Tyrone Tremaine and Lee Bektash. Now, Bektash, I think by his own admission, will say that he had a substandard day one of racing here at Willowbank. He got lucky in the first round. He got lucky, to be honest, in the second round as well, with both races red lighting. So I think they're going to be looking to bounce back from that. And you've got to remember, Lee Bektash is a championship contender. So after yesterday, it's all about damage control for that team. And this man, well, Tyrone Tremaine, he had a wretched day yesterday. 2 red lights in 2 rounds of racing. It really wasn't a good showing from him, but the car was performing well. So once they get that driving set up right for him, the car will be going down the track, I am sure of it. This is the final pair for this first and only qualifying session that we've got here today. That's the crew chief for Lee Bektash, Paul Drady, also known as Plucker. And he's tuning the screws this weekend for the first time on the Mopar car. It's a big promotion for him, a lot of pressure, but I tell you what, Lee Bektash has got a lot of faith in that man. Both cars pulling up to the line. Really is a procedure they have to go through. Taking his time coming into stage here for Tyrone Tremaine. Both cars in, set for a start. Great reaction time from Tyrone Tremaine. First off the start line, he'll be first to the finish line as well. It is only qualifying, but it's a 7.06 for Tremaine and a 7.03 for Lee Bektash. That makes it 2 number 1 qualifiers in 2 days, and Lee Bektash is sitting pretty after this one and only qualifying session. Let's go back and have a look at the replay. It looked pretty clean on both sides of the tree. A little bit tardy on the reaction time for Lee Bektash. He'll want to sharpen that up coming into the first round of racing, but that is what Pro Stock is all about. Door handle to door handle racing the whole way down the drag strip, and I love that in-car shot with Tremaine out the window. That just personifies what Pro Stock is about. It's about increments, it's about thousandths of a second, and it is about close racing. Fantastic showing in qualifying. So this is the way they will head into the first round. Lee Bektash leading the way yet again with Emilio Spinozzi right in behind him. The 2 Tremaine brothers in 3rd and 4th. John Barbagallo 5th. Brian Purcell and Grace Porter rounding out the field.
Emilio, this sport is all about momentum, so it's such a shame when weather intervenes. You're carrying form, weren't you?
Yes, we are. We come in at second qualifier. We got Speedmaster Camaro into number 2. So, yeah, and then we come back to do a quick turnaround to go into the eliminations, and unfortunately the rain has got us.
Fastest qualifier tonight. It must be a very satisfying result for the team.
Yep, no, we're really happy with the result. The boys have worked hard. We've got a great car, as everybody knows. Would have been nice to see what happens for the night, but unfortunately, due to the rain, it's all over.
You've actually had a really solid weekend until this point. It must be really encouraging.
Yeah, look, we've definitely had the most consistent car out there, and that's again a credit to the team. And of course the brand, we run the Chrysler brand, as everybody knows, so it's good for the Mopar fans. But, it's probably the only positive is, I think we might take more points out of this event than anybody else. And that's the challenge, I suppose. We look at the championship, not just the round.
And Lee Bektash certainly does have one eye on that championship. 152 points. He has got a slender lead over Tyrone Tremaine. Aaron Tremaine up there as well. Spinozzi in fourth. It is a tough field. Unfortunately, the rain has brought to an end this event, but for all the information about upcoming events for 400 Thunder, check out the website on screen now. That's all we've got time for today. We'll see you next time on 400 Thunder.